My Bloody Valentine and Converge are back. Cindy Lee is wowing big crowds. Some late in the year new albums are here, and more. I'm Dave. I'm here with Andrew, and you're listening to BV Weekly. So have you heard the new Corey Feldman EP yet?
No, I have not.
It's his love letter to the Beatles, so I thought that would be, as the biggest Beatles fan on this podcast, relevant to your interests.
Well, I'm actually looking forward to the Beatles anthology docuseries coming next week. But I'm a millennial. Corey Feldman isn't nostalgic for me the way he is for you.
Fine. Anyway, that is a real thing. It's not, as my friend Jeff asked, a band ironically named after Corey Feldman, who just released a new EP tribute to the Beatles. It is, in fact, the one and only Corey Feldman. But
is it covers or does it just sound like the Beatles?
Each song is supposed to represent a different era of the Beatles, so not covers. And I actually did listen to it. And, he's been doing this like Michael Jackson shtick for years where he's, you may have seen some of the viral videos from his performances where he gets up on stage surrounded by like women dancers dressed like Michael Jackson, but also not doing Michael Jackson songs, I don't think. And, as you may know from his history, he was good friends with Michael as a kid. He denies being molested by Michael. That's a pretty big part of his story. But he hung out with Michael quite a bit as a child. This is Corey Feldman of such great movies as Goonies, Stand By Me, Lost Boys. But let's keep moving. My Bloody Valentine just played a secret show. Well, it wasn't that secret. Their first in 7 years. And they play, it was in Dublin, billed under the name Isn't Anything, named after their first album. It wasn't really secret. People figured it out pretty quickly. The show actually moved to a bigger venue, which is not typically what happens for secret warm-up shows. And yeah, we're feeling the FOMO from over here in the US.
Yeah, there's surprisingly, well, I guess, I don't know if there was like a phone thing, but there's not really a lot of video that I've been able to find, which for in today's day and age is surprising. But we found a full video of them playing soon. And I mean, they sound as great as ever. So,
I mean, but it also, I don't know, I was kind of underwhelmed at the video, but not because I assumed they didn't sound good, because I was like, this is why you just don't need YouTube videos of My Bloody Valentine concerts. You got to go.
You have to be there. Yeah. I mean, definitely. I saw them at Hammerstein Ballroom at some point, and I think after MBV came out.
Same.
And and that was like, that still goes down for me. It's a very memorable show. We know they're playing Primavera Sound next year. They have some big shows in London and Glasgow this week or next week with J Mascis opening. It's super cool. So we're hoping that we're going to get like US shows again. Also hoping for new music. They didn't play any new songs at the show. They did play, they played Off Your Face from the Glider EP for the first time ever, which is very cool, but nothing new. And Kevin Shields has been talking about new music for what feels like forever. And we know he doesn't work very quickly, considering the last record, which is now almost 13 years old, came 22 years after Loveless. But I feel like they're a band where I have full faith in new music from them. And like now that MBV is actually kind of an old album, like they mixed up the set list pretty well at this show. They played a good amount of just everything. And it's like, I feel like that album is like as classic as all the old late 80s, early 90s My Bloody Valentine stuff.
Right. That's crazy how that happens.
Yeah.
Hum also jumps to mind.
Yeah, I mean, Hum's new album is incredible. It's only 5 years old, but yeah, I think in another 5 to 7 or 8 years, it'll feel similar, where you're just like, this is like as important to my life and as classic as the 90s Hum.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just hoping this is like the start of like kind of back to a fuller time schedule. Really, really hoping that maybe this is the year we get some new music. But as always with My Bloody Valentine, I would not recommend holding your breath.
They did get some new merch. The t-shirt designs looked amazing. We posted a picture of those along with the set list on the BrooklynVegan Instagram because we saw that picture come up before they even started playing the show. Someone posted a picture and it was like even merch FOMO.
Yeah. It was a big night for shows because it was the same night that, as we mentioned last week, was rumored to happen. Robyn played a big night for secret shows. Robyn played her semi-secret LA show, heavily rumored, not so secret, kind of like this one. And as we predicted, she did in fact make the live debut of her new single Dopamine, which we also haven't seen video of yet. I think we've only seen video of like Dancing on My Own and stuff. Maybe by the time this is live, you'll have found video of the Dopamine live debut, but no other new songs from her, which I was wondering if that would happen. Sometimes you do get like, this like
The second single.
or second single, or like just the live debut of a few new songs kind of thing, but didn't happen. But we know an album's coming, so hopefully we learn more sooner than later. But yeah, big night for FOMO, because here in New York there was nothing like Robyn or My Bloody Valentine doing big comeback shows.
No, but we did get here in New York, not a show really many people could go to, not a very long show, but Snocaps, the new project of Allison and Katie Crutchfield, MJ Lenderman, and Brad Cook, that I think we also talked about at length on previous episodes, made their live debut here in New York on Jimmy Fallon this week, ahead of their first and potentially very short tour that's coming
And
up.
potentially
last first tour that's coming up. And yeah, that sounded good. I did watch that video. That is actually quality video, of course, like any Fallon performance. And one thing I noticed is, well, first of all, I want to say that Snocaps album is growing on me. I don't know. The first listen didn't wow me. It was just like, okay, this exists. I know you liked it a lot more than me. I think it's a pretty high bar for that supergroup for me, because for both of us, longtime fans of the Crutchfield sisters, everything they do. For me, especially Waxahachie, big fans of MJ Lenderman and everything he has touched, including Wednesday, obviously, and Brad Cook as well. We can't leave him out of the equation. Very long time fans of things he's been involved with, including a lot of Bon Iver related things. So, I was just like, of course I'm going to like this Snocaps album, but now I'm like starting to love it. And it was great to see one of the songs performed live. One thing I noticed, we've talked about how sometimes listening to the album, this is not the opinion of everyone, but we can't always tell Allison and Katie's singing voices apart. Most notably, Amanda, who we work with, does not agree with us on this, let's just say. But, I was noticing on the Fallon performance, Allison, who is less in the spotlight these days, was very much in front, which I thought was cool. It's like, and then Katie, aka Waxahachie, was almost like backup vocals. Would you agree that for this song at least?
Didn't they like trade off?
I don't know. I felt like Allison was singing with Katie coming in, like they sing at the same time a bunch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like they sing in unison on the album a lot, which also I think adds to like not necessarily one of them feeling more like the lead singer than the other.
Yeah, but visually too, Allison was more forward, and then also, which something that surprised many people, MJ Lenderman, known most for his guitar playing but also singing, was the drummer.
And known for his drumming. I mean, he drums on those Indigo D'Souza albums.
Oh yeah, there you go. I just saw a headline, Indigo D'Souza was like, my first band was with MJ Lenderman. Anyway, yeah.
There you go. And then, I mean, they said that everybody played a bunch of instruments on the record. I feel pretty convinced that the twangy guitar stuff is MJ Lenderman on the album. It just sounds too much like his style to not be, but of course it could in fact be someone else. So I was definitely kind of hoping to see some MJ Lenderman lead guitar happening on this performance, but yeah, it was cool to see that he chose drums for this one. And I'm curious, like, I mean, again, we like the album bio that I saw just says they all played multiple instruments. I'm sure there's a credits list somewhere. I have not seen it. So I do wonder if he just drums on the whole record, and I wonder like how much everybody did do, and like to what extent they all did stuff. But yeah, if he'll be drumming on the tour, I think that I definitely would have expected him to be on guitar. So that's interesting. But maybe we'll see. Maybe they'll move around and trade instruments and stuff like that, which is also always cool to see.
Yeah. And so, and actually maybe the same day, a few days earlier, MJ Lenderman and Katie Crutchfield, Waxahachie also just announced a solo tour together.
A co-headlining tour of their solo. Yeah, both playing solo, doing co-headlining. And I think we can...
Well, co-headlining, but also joining each other, it said.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure we're going to get them playing like right back to it together. I'm sure Katie will sing on She's Leaving You as she has before. And I bet they'll do a cover, maybe like the Lucinda Williams song they've done. And I bet it'll be even more than that too. So,
and apparently it's seated.
Which is nice for a solo tour. I mean, if there's no drummer,
definitely. It's in Brooklyn Paramount, where I also have seen a lot of shows lately, including Mars Volta, which I wish was seated actually. But
and you have to wonder if they'll play any Snocaps songs.
True. And also at Brooklyn Paramount, Brooklyn Paramount is like, it's actually really easy for me to get to, so I'm not complaining. But this is like a venue I find myself at constantly. Unfortunately, I did not make maybe what were the biggest two shows of last week, the Cindy Lee shows that both happened there, 2 nights in a row. But our coworker, the previously mentioned Amanda, was. So why don't we invite her on to talk a little bit about that? Amanda?
Hey.
What's up? Thanks for coming back.
Thanks for having me back.
We were just talking about how we find ourselves constantly at Brooklyn Paramount these days.
True.
And how neither Andrew or I found ourselves at the Cindy Lee shows that just happened, but you were there.
I was. I felt really lucky to have been able to make it to one of them. I went to the second night, which was the last night of the brief tour that was rescheduled after, well, not really rescheduled. The initial tour was canceled. And then this tour at significantly larger venues was announced. But I was really happy to get to go because I had wanted to go to one of the initial shows. And, you know, they were super sold out, very in-demand ticket. And it was just a really beautiful night.
Those were the initial shows that got canceled. That didn't actually happen that you were referring to, right? Yeah. Then smaller venues.
The ones that were scheduled for May, and the New York ones,
like 2024, though, right?
Yeah.
It was like over a year ago,
right?
Yeah,
so
time flies.
There was like a question, like, are these shows are they going to come back? You know, is that it? So when they did announce more shows, that was really exciting. But yeah, the previous New York shows were at Baby's All Right and TVI. So we're supposed to be at. So a lot smaller than 2 nights at Brooklyn Paramount.
Yeah, understatement. And the first Brooklyn Paramount show, which is like the size of 10 Baby's All Rights, sold out like instantly, I think, pretty much. Yeah, and then they added the second one.
And I wonder if they could have added a third. Maybe they could have.
And how was it?
It was fantastic. I feel like the new album is such an immersive experience, especially given the long runtime, which I kind of love. I love that. I feel like it really draws you into the world of the album. And the show really, while it was not as long as the album, I felt like the show really did that as well. I felt like you just really got drawn into this slightly surreal and very beautiful world of Cindy Lee there, and you know, their sequined dress kind of sparkling in the lights as they played guitar and sang, and it was just them on stage, and I felt like that it was kind of perfect. Like I loved that. It was such a good way for those songs to happen live.
It's just guitar, mic, no backing track of any kind? Or?
Yeah, there was a backing track too. So I guess you could say it gave like, I don't want to say karaoke vibes, but I feel like there was a like a drag element of it, which is fitting given, you know, what the project is. And it just, I felt like it worked so well.
You kind of like a lo-fi bedroom feel as well. And
Yeah. But also not, because it's in this, you know, large, beautiful venue with like gorgeous lighting and like smoke and just like not a spectacle per se, but it was just a vibe. It very much, like when I left, I kind of had to shake myself out of this like spell I'd been under for the past hour.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw video of the shows that did happen on the 2024 tour before the remainder was canceled, it just felt like they were sitting a lot and the venues were all small and the stages were small. And I was like, okay, so this is like Dave said, it felt like this intimate bedroom lo-fi thing being done live in an intimate bedroom lo-fi way. And then from the clips I've seen of this tour, it just seems like so much more like theatrical and bigger. Like, is that like, would you agree with that, having seen it in person?
Yeah, I think I agree with that. But I do think that it retains a lot of the intimate bedroom feel even in the larger venues, and it's really an interesting juxtaposition of those two vibes. So like in a way, it was like actually really cool that I got to see it in the big venue, even though like of course would have loved to see it at like Baby's All Right. But yeah, it there's something about, you know, putting this just like a single person onto this like very, you know, large, ornate, beautiful stage and just having them captivate the sold out crowd like that I think is just like very special.
not to mention, it feels like, I don't know exactly what the reason the initial shows got canceled, but it was definitely like a kind of stage fright, mental health reasons.
Yeah.
Almost like this triumphant return to
Right.
be able to go in front of crowds that huge and play for that long.
No, exactly. I also, you know, kind of got that feeling. And they also played a song or two that people were unable to identify, possibly unreleased, possibly new. So that is also a very cool thing and like maybe promising for more new music in the future, hopefully.
I did want to ask you about the set list, because I mean, Diamond Jubilee was like one of our favorite albums, one of everybody's favorite albums of 2024. It was like one of those, just like you saw it in the top 5 or 10 of every major year-end list,
even though it wasn't on streaming services,
right? Which was like, of course, a big part of the story. And it was kind of the first time Cindy Lee had something like that, but far from the first Cindy Lee album. There are so many dating back to 2012. Was the set list all new stuff? Like, do you know, like, did they work in older songs too? Like,
the set list was mostly Diamond Jubilee, but there were like a few songs each from Cat o' Nine Tails, What's Tonight to Eternity. And they ended the show with a cover of Chad Van Galen's Burning Candle.
Love that.
It was really beautiful. And
I mean,
they pretty much stuck...
women and Chad were like in the same scene, right? Is that
right? Yeah. So yeah, they pretty much stuck to that same set list with like mostly Diamond Jubilee and then kind of a scattering from throughout some of their discography for most of the shows, I believe.
Wait, did Cindy Lee actually push the buttons or somebody working that from behind the scenes?
I think they push the buttons.
Got it.
And they also play guitar without a strap, which, not being a guitar player myself, I don't know personally, but I've heard that's very difficult.
Definitely harder than using a strap.
And especially in standing, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like standing in heels, that's, you know, that's not easy either. So yeah, just like kind of quietly impressive.
How long was the show?
About an hour.
Okay, so not too bad that the audience was standing.
No, that I definitely did not mind standing for an hour.
Because we were just saying before you came that the MJ Lenderman, Waxahachie upcoming solo shows, one of which is at the same venue, is apparently seated.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because the other show, there's the Brooklyn Paramount show, and then there's a Beacon Theater show. So I actually was like,
Yeah.
is it going to be one standing, one seated? But that's interesting.
And so,
I don't know. I kind of like a standing show.
Yeah, I mean, it gives you more chance to like get a spot you want. A little more all right.
Well, you know what else is a really hard to get super sold out ticket at Brooklyn Paramount?
That's also playing 2 nights in a row in just a few days.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Geese, the one and only, are playing their first. Well, actually, it's not their first New York City shows since the new album came out, because they played that insane surprise show that was outside, which we all saw in our Instagram feeds and on the Brooklyn Vegan Instagram for days. And they just a few days ago played a small surprise show at the Blue Note. So these, I don't know if they played any shows since then.
And not just a surprise show, but the set list was surprisingly all covers.
Right. Surprisingly all covers. Yeah, that not just any covers, but covers of some classics like The Stooges, Leonard Cohen, Velvet Underground, Suicide, this is kind of a big theme for Geese lately. They just a few weeks ago, Patti Smith came forward saying how like Geese has made her feel optimistic again. And then just like today/yesterday, Nick Cave came out and also said how excited Geese makes him. And then, yeah, so all these like legends are either in their set list or saying how much they love them.
I thought it was really interesting how Patti Smith said that like she heard Geese come on the radio and she said, suddenly I felt optimistic. And Nick Cave described listening to Trinidad and he said, all worry is laid to waste. They both had kind of these very similar reactions of like, I hear this band and I just like get this rush of positivity. So I thought that was kind of
right.
Yeah. I wonder if Nick was at all influenced by seeing Patti say it, or if it's just great minds think alike. But it must, I mean, you know, I think we were talking right at some point about like how Geese have gotten comparisons to like the rise of like once hypey bands like Clap Your Hands Say Yeah and even Arcade Fire, and how like the story with those bands was always you had like David Byrne and David Bowie in the crowd. So for Geese to have Patti Smith and Nick Cave saying this, I mean, I'm sure they're feeling pretty good right now.
Yeah, and it's also interesting how many we talked about this at length before. This is Gee's 3rd or 4th album, but it really feels like it's just all happening for them now. Even though they were hyped from their 2nd/1st album.
Yeah, I mean they have transcended a little bit of industry buzz, and they're a real band now. So
speaking of these Brooklyn Paramount shows, Amanda and I are very lucky to have a ticket to night 2, so we'll talk about that on next week's episode. But
very lucky because I assume we've all seen the StubHub prices for this whole Geese store.
I've been looking for months, and they've been over $300, like the cheapest at Brooklyn Paramount.
It is insane. My wife is the one who alerted me to it, and I was like, that can't be right. Like, I was like, no. Like, I was like, Geese is just Geese. They're just like a rising indie band. They're not going to be doing like, Charlie XCX numbers on StubHub, but yes, they are. Crazy. It's just nuts that they're like, I mean, it's, it's like I feel like we're sort of jokingly like, oh, this week in Geese, but it's like, it really is like each week feels like another new exciting, like, or like just unexpected and bigger chapter of this story than the previous week. I mean, it's definitely feels like a phenomenon right now.
And this week has felt like one of the biggest weeks yet in, Weeks in Geese, because also their new From the Basement session came out, which is fantastic. And they also were a last minute addition to Tyler, the Creator's Camp Flog Gnaw Carnival Festival, which wound up having to be rescheduled a week because of severe weather in Los Angeles last weekend. And they lost a few artists along the way, but they gained a few, including Geese. So that is now their last scheduled show of this year. It was going to be that the Brooklyn shows were kind of like the grand finale. But yeah, all of that together has made for a very busy week, an extra busy week in Geese.
Yeah. And like, I feel like if an indie rock band gets added to Tyler's festival, it's probably not that big of a deal. But you're like, oh, this is going to be one of the biggest sets at the fest, like just based on. And yeah, I mean, the From the Basement session, I agree with you, Amanda. It's awesome. Just in case anyone is unfamiliar, that's Nigel Godric's like web series. He's Radiohead's producer, and they have like they have like a super beloved one, but a lot of bands have done it. But yeah, it's awesome. It's highly recommended that you check that out if you haven't.
Where did Geese go next? It's kind of funny, actually, the story of like last year, or in the New York Times case, like last month, there's a lot of like, wait, there's a Geese and a Goose, both bands. And so one funny thing is Goose, I think, beat Geese to Madison Square Garden, right? I feel like it almost feels like who's Goose? But Goose already headlined Madison Square Garden. It feels like Geese are on their way.
Well, Goose are still bigger, but they're also in the jam scene. So it's like we're not hearing about it as much.
True.
But yeah, I feel like MSG is still too far away for Geese. But I think if I had to guess what happens on the next tour, like, I don't know, maybe they do Forest Hills Stadium.
I was also thinking Forest Hills for New York. That has been my guess.
That's a good guess.
Did they do like their own festival here? Was that them? I know some. No. Am I just thinking of like Frost Children or something?
Frost Children definitely did. But I can't think of a Geese festival, but okay. I could be forgetting.
All right. So unless you have any final notes on Geese or Cindy Lee, Amanda, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
So that's all cool. Cindy Lee, Geese. But I don't know about you, but I feel like I need something a little bit heavier in my life today.
What do you got?
Converge. Converge finally is back with they announced that they're going to release their first proper album in what's going to be nearly 9 years, which I'm 90% sure, without fact checking right now, that's the longest gap they've ever gone. So super excited. They did do the album with Chelsea Wolfe in between, but this is the first true Converge album since 2017's The Dusk in Us.
Yeah, and I mean, they toured that album as well. So
yeah, no, that felt like, yeah, it was, that came out in 2021. So that was 4 years after the last one. Now they're going to be 5 years since then. So it's still pretty standard, but still it feels like, to get just Converge doing Converge for the first time in nearly a decade.
They have not been totally quiet in that time, though. I feel like I've seen them live multiple times in the past.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying. Yeah, I agree. They've been very active. We just haven't gotten a new song that is like proper Converge.
Not to mention Jacob Bannon has that death metal band he's put out some releases with.
I mean, he had Wear Your Wounds and Umbre V. Wait,
Vitae, right?
Yeah. So it's like it's been, and then of course you have Kurt Ballou recording 6,000 bands a year, and all this other stuff.
Jacob owning Death Wish Records.
Yeah, doing art for every, but let's rewind a second. So yes, the first single of the record's called Love Is Not Enough. The title track is also track 1, which is also the lead single. It's here. So for the first time in nearly 9 years, we're hearing a new song by just the 4 members of Converge, and I'm super excited about it. They sound so. One thing that Jacob Bannon said in the press materials for the record is that they sequenced this album unlike any other Converge album. The point is to have it feel like it's constantly getting more intense as it goes on. So, and I think that's especially cool in today's day and age of like everybody's front loading their records because they assume short attention spans means like hook them on the first 3 songs and then like put your worst songs at the end. So they are saying like, you'll be rewarded if you listen to this in order. And if the album gets more intense than this song, I think we're in for quite a ride, because this is like, it's a 2-minute track, super like fast Converge, like you know, and they've definitely, as they've kind of entered their more grisly era, they've done some kind of slower, more like post metal stuff. So 30 plus years into their career, to get the new single from their first album in a while to be just like a total like insane rager, I think we're in for a treat. I'm excited.
Yeah. And how many albums does Converge have now?
Let me see. So I group Convergent as catalog in my head by sort of like their eras, like which shout out Invisible Oranges. They did one of my favorite features that they've done in recent memory. It's now probably a few years ago, but they kind of did like a dedicated feature to each era of Converge's career. So I think you have 3 albums in the 90s, 4 in the 2000s, and 2 in the 2010s. So that's 9. So this is the 10th, or if it's maybe 11th if you count the one with Chelsea Wolfe, but it's the first true Converge album of the 2020s. So yeah, I think the answer is 9, and I think but you know, someone will fact check me if that's off by 1 or something. Maybe they had like something I'm forgetting.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of albums. It's of multiple eras. I'm wondering if you have a top 5 Converge albums.
I think
As
Converge,
someone who is way more on top of all Converge albums than myself.
I think Converge is one of those bands that's like really hard to rank. They're kind of like all so good for different reasons. But okay, so off the top of my head, subject to change in descending order, I think I would do 5, Petitioning the Empty Sky. Probably my favorite of their 90s records, which was before they solidified the lineup with Jay Bannon, Kurt Ballou, Nate Newton, and Ben Kohler. They used to call themselves back then like hardcore kids with leftover Slayer riffs, and I feel like this album is exactly that. And The Saddest Day, one of the best songs ever. I always feel like if you get a Converge show with The Saddest Day, you get a good Converge show. I guess I'll go All the Love We Leave Behind, which I want to rank higher. I really have an attachment to that record. It came out in 2012. It just came at a good time for me. It means a lot to me. Like it might even be the Converge album that means the most to me. I just don't know if it's my number one, but it's like that for me also really solidified to like how much of a lifer band this is, because I felt like Axe to Fall, which I'll talk more about in a second, kind of could have been like the sort of peak for that band, and then it just clearly like they kept going, and it was just that record, just what a great follow-up. I think actually, so this might be my hottest take, but 3, Jane Doe. I know a lot of people would put Jane Doe at 1. It's the most important Converge album. I just think they have others that I like more and that are probably better. But you know, I feel like Jane Doe just helped signify the entire start of the 2000s for heavy music. It's just like 90s Converge is 90s music, and Jane Doe is just like we're in a new era, and they helped kick it off. I think Axe to Fall, which again I think could be number 1 on a different day, and maybe should be, and I'm being stupid. It's just like that's I think a perfect example of why I don't have Jane Doe at number 1, because it's like as good as Jane Doe is, like they push themselves so much further on Axe to Fall, and it's just like it's unbelievable to see just like the absolute range of music on that record. It's like that's when they start to become like a band that I can't even pin down to a genre. Like I feel like they're a hardcore or a metalcore band up until Axe to Fall, and then they're just like a post genre band. And one, You Fail Me, I think it's the best Converge record of kind of like the classic era. I just like it a little more than Jane Doe. It just really hits for me. It feels really timeless, less dated than not that their stuff really ever feels dated, but it feels just really less dated than a lot of the music from that era. And I just think you hear its influence all over the place, maybe even more than you hear the influence of Jane Doe. But yeah, that's what I'm going to say.
Nice. Well, can't wait to hear the rest of the new Converge album.
Me neither.
But meanwhile, we have new albums out this week, a slower week. As we're approaching year-end season, I will say that like we're in big catch-up mode right now. I'll speak for myself, in big catch-up mode right now, re-listening to stuff from earlier in the year, trying to, make my list that we will reveal at some point soon. But meanwhile, new albums out right now, today, still, that could also make the list. What do we got?
Yeah, this is definitely the first week of the year where it feels like the year is winding down. Like, I feel like the first 2 weeks of November were heavy weeks. This one's pretty light. For me, I'm going to talk about 3 full-length records and 2 short EPs, which I feel like should speak volumes for how this is, in fact, a shorter week. But all right, so 5 new albums out this week, starting with Glitterer, whose album is called as in Glitterer. It's the band led by Ned Russin, who, if you don't know from Glitterer, you probably know from Title Fight. It's Glitterer's 4th album, and as Ned pointed out in a very cool video that he made for us, it's the first time in his career that he's in a band that's putting out a 4th album. It's Glitterer's 4th album. Title Fight only had 3. And I really
People are arguing in the comments, by the way,
about
whether Title Fight actually had 3 or whether they had 4 or that one of them was a comp.
Oh, it was a comp. Yeah, that's my stance on that.
Arguing might be a strong word.
Yeah,
anyway.
no, I get it. I mean, I get it. I think Converge is the same thing. I think one of their 90s full lengths is a comp, and maybe that's why I was uncertain. But I really like where Glitterer is at right now. It started as Ned's solo project, like around the time Title Fight was winding down. And for the last 2 records, it's very much been a full band. Ned has said he's like really reconnecting with playing in a band, playing collaboratively with people, and also just re-finding his comfort zone as just like picking up a bass and rocking out and playing like loud melodic rock music. That's just where he feels most comfortable, because some of the earlier Glitterer stuff was different than that. And I think this is like a really just great example of Ned in his comfort zone. And what really speaks to me about this record is when you listen to those old Title Fight records, Ned was just so good at capturing like the sort of like introspective sadness of being an early 20-something and delivering it in such a widely relatable way. And now, like, he's in his mid-30s. The world is an even worse place than it was back then. His concerns are a little bit more macro, and he is still just as good at communicating and conveying those feelings. It's just that now he's kind of singing about like the hopelessness and dread that sits in when you look around you at the world. And so it's like, it just feels like Ned using his distinct songwriting style for concerns that, may connect with people who are now 12 years older than they were when he put out Floral Green or something.
The world is not a beautiful place.
No, and everyone is afraid to die. And De La Soul's first album in 9 years is out.
Woo-hoo.
I know you're a big De La Soul fan. It's coming out as part of Nas's Legend Has It series. It's also the first album since Dave, aka Trugoy the Dove, passed away. And Nas's series has definitely both coaxed veterans out of hibernation and also gotten some sort of like posthumous material for deceased rappers. And so this is both of those examples in one, because it's the first De La Soul record in nearly a decade. And it has a lot of other guests on there, like Black Thought and Common and Killer Mike and Nas himself. DJ Premier and Pete Rock handled production. Super Dave West, who's done De La Soul records in the past, also handled production. And I said this about their last album when it came out, and The Anonymous Nobody, and I'll say it again about this one. I think it's really cool that De La Soul are really making no effort to fit in with current music. This just sounds like what they would have done if it was still 1996. And they have all these great guests there who I'm sure are massive De La Soul fans, and I'm sure took a lot of care and consideration into making this project feel authentic. So very cool. For something heavier, Gasket's self-titled debut album is out this week. They're a Baltimore metallic hardcore band. They're on Blue Grape, which is the label from Roadrunner people that like Code Orange and Gel and Spiritual Cramp and other bands were or are on. And kind of reminds me of Knocked Loose, just in how like dark, heavy, scary, intense it is. With like, it's like metalcore, but it feels like very much feels like hardcore. Really kick-ass stuff. The Florida melodic hardcore band Method of Doubt, who put out a debut album in 2021 that we really loved and then broke up soon afterwards, are thankfully back, and they have a new EP out called Total Soul Ignition, It's really good if you're into melodic hardcore stuff like Dag Nasty, Embrace, Turning Point. Don't miss this. And 90s emo veterans Boys Life have a new EP. It's their first new music in 29 years. It's called Ordinary Wars, and it is much different than the music they were making in the 90s. It's not really, they're not coming back to sort of relive their glory days. They're coming back to make totally different music under the same name. Pretty interesting to hear it. So those are the 5 albums I review in notable releases on BrooklynVegan.com. As always, Bill talks about more in Indie Basement, including the new One O Tricks Point Never, the new record from Sharp Pins, which is a member of Lifeguard, the new record by the Chicago band Gliders. It's their first for Drag City. Jeff Bauer of Portishead did the soundtrack for the movie Game. He talks about that and some other stuff too. So as always, check out notable releases and Indie Basement on BrooklynVegan.com for all of our record reviews. Hopefully enough good new music to get you into Thanksgiving mode next week. And speaking of Thanksgiving, Dave.
Fresh off Jack White being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and giving a badass induction speech, as we discussed at length on last week's episode, it's been announced that Jack will play the Thanksgiving Day halftime show for his home team, the Detroit Lions, also famously the favorite team of emo band Empire, who claimed they would only reunite if the Detroit Lions won the Super Bowl. They reunited anyway, luckily.
Yeah, I'm happy Jack is playing, and I know, especially like it just feels like a good, exciting time for Jack right now. But when I saw the announcement, I was like, come on, you couldn't land Empire.
For more music-related stuff to watch on Thanksgiving, as Andrew mentioned earlier, just a reminder that the new Beatles anthology docuseries is coming to Disney+. New trailer came out this week, as well as an album box set, which is out today.
Can I just say that it's becoming one of my favorite Thanksgiving traditions that we get to watch a new Beatles movie. Like it just feels like, I hope this trend continues. I can't believe they have more and more Beatles content to unearth, but.
All right. I have to admit, I actually haven't watched any of them.
You haven't seen Get Back?
No.
Oh my God.
But I did also on Disney Plus watch like 4 hours of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ahead of our episode last week.
I don't care.
Counts.
You should.
The Beatles are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and it's on Disney Plus.
You're just digging your grave deeper. You get back to me after you've seen Get Back. No pun intended.
Well, here's something I definitely plan to watch. A new mini tour documentary on Deaf Heaven was made while they were just touring one of our favorite albums of the year. And that documentary is coming to Veeps on November 24th. You'll be able to check that out there.
So it'll still be there Thanksgiving weekend when I'm watching all my stuff?
Yes. It's also like, it's a mini documentary, so it'll be a quick one.
The opposite of the Beatles.
Yeah, exactly. Greg Ginn has broken his silence on Black Flag's new lineup of early 20-somethings by speaking with the New York Times for his first formal interview in 13 years. Kathleen Hanna launched a new podcast this week called Music Makes Us, and the first episode is a conversation with Hayley Williams. My Chemical Romance added a few new dates to their 2026 tour, an LA Halloween show with The Used and Thrice, and their LA Halloween shows like 2 days in a row, and then they're on
one with The Used, one with Thrice,
yeah, and they're on the just announced Welcome to Rockville lineup alongside bands like Turnstile, Guns N' Roses, Foo Fighters, and lots of others.
Speaking of bands where I'm really hoping we finally get that new music.
Turnstile? Oh, Guns N' Roses.
My Chemical, yeah. My Chemical Romance. I mean, I feel like they've been playing the Black Parade. I think they said that the Halloween shows next year are like maybe the final shows of that tour. I don't know if I'm making that up or confusing memories, but I'm like, okay, if you're done playing the Black Parade, does that please mean that finally means new music? Because that new song they put out was like excellent. Anyway, go on.
We may sooner get new music from the XX, as has been heavily rumored, as the band has started to appear on festival lineups, including Coachella. Also announced this week, Kilby Block Party in Salt Lake City, which is just one of those festival lineups that every year is like, whoa, it's still like indie rock top to bottom, and related bands we love, kind of like Primavera. This year being headlined by Lorde, the XX, Turnstile, Hayley Williams, American Football, and lots of other mostly indie rock bands we love. This fest is also brought to us by the same people who do Emo Fest Best Friends Forever in Vegas. So that's like, they have 2 cool fests by this Utah-based promoter.
And American football will have played both of them.
That is very true. Ending on a sad note, Manny from the Stone Roses and Primal Scream just passed away. We just found out before recording at the age of 63. To quote Bill Paris, so many classic bass lines between the 2 bands. Rest in peace, Manny. And earlier this week, singer-songwriter and Americana veteran Todd Snyder sadly died under actually very chaotic circumstances at age 59 due to officially complications from pneumonia. But go read about that. It's really sad and complicated story. Meanwhile, before we go, Andrew, you just recorded yourself talking about 10 new metal albums. Even new metal skeptics need to know. This is currently on the Brooklyn Vegan YouTube channel, the Brooklyn Vegan Instagram, TikTok, anywhere where you watch Brooklyn Vegan videos. Why are we talking about new metal in 2025?
Yes, and also to add, for those who like reading, there is an article on the website.
Oh, yeah. Imagine that. Articles.
Right? What a concept. It is interesting, right? I mean, new metal was so maligned when it came out, especially by the sort of cool kid club that would probably attend Kilby Block Party. But it just seems like everything gets reevaluated these days. And I think we have to ask ourselves the questions of why did we hate that thing so much in the first place? And we usually find the answers don't have a lot of legs anymore. But yeah, I mean, new metal was like an extremely important cultural moment, a very unique one. I mean, love it or hate it, it didn't sound like anything before or after it, except for the stuff that it influenced. But, like it was really unique. And, now we just see it everywhere, like System of a Down, one of the biggest bands in the world, that Sick New World Festival. It's kind of like the pop punk thing. We got like When We Were Young for pop punk and Sick New World for new metal, and just everybody reliving that era now that they are adults and can afford to do these things in places like Las Vegas. Deftones are like band of the year, talking about making year-end lists. We're going to see private music on a lot of lists this year. I mean, definitely worth pointing out, I think, that Slipknot's first record, which they toured in full last year, just got a Best New Reissue on Pitchfork. I mean, can you kind of picture the Pitchfork of 1999 giving that album Best New Music? They didn't do Best New Music until 2003 or something, but you know what I'm saying? Wouldn't have happened is the point. So anyway, yeah. And I personally I'm kind of a former new metal skeptic myself. So I kind of thought I would gear the list towards fellow new metal skeptics. Like, I mean, there's plenty of best new metal albums lists, but I kind of, there were some people in the comments on Instagram being like, oh, like, know this, know that. And I'm like, well, maybe I didn't think those would necessarily convert a skeptic, because there are things about it that, there are reasons people didn't like this stuff. Like, so I kind of went for the albums that I thought would kind of win over even the most cynical people, like the ones that I'm just like, hey, if you just like music, you got to be listening to stuff like, obviously stuff like Deftones, White Pony, System of a Down, Toxicity, Korn and Slipknot's debuts. And then, Incubus, Science, but like something like Mudvayne's LD50, that's an album where I would imagine, I think a lot of people at this point know they should listen to White Pony and Toxicity. I think maybe less people who kind of don't pay attention to new metal would really think much of Mudvayne. And I think that album is really surprising because this big single kind of sounds like Slipknot, but then there's these really progressive rock elements throughout the album, and it's just quite a listen. So yeah, I wanted to go for stuff that I thought hey, you think you're a hater, put it on from start to finish and see if you're still a hater at the end. So I hope people gain something from that.
Now would be a great time to go to shop.brooklynvegan.com for all your new metal vinyl needs, as well as
including the new Mudvayne, I think.
Oh yeah. Well, we also have the new Converge album, but sorry if you didn't get there earlier, because we also had an exclusive variant of that Converge album, which is now completely sold out, but we still have cool variants of it in the shop, along with our exclusive pressing of the new Turnstile album, new reissues from Cindy Lee, Quicksand, Mastodon, Descendants, the upcoming albums from Nothing and Joyce Manor, and much more at shop.brooklynvegan.com. Please like and subscribe this podcast on wherever you listen to podcasts, and go listen to our BV Interviews podcast. I am sure you probably have episodes to catch up on there. Lots of great interviews, usually now with Bill on our BV Interview podcast. And we will talk to you next week.
Thanks for tuning in. Dave and I will be back every Friday morning with new episodes of BV Weekly. And in between the episodes, you can always get much more from us at BrooklynVegan.com, on all of our social media, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. You can pick up records from us at shop.brooklynvegan.com. And if you like what you hear, tell your friends about us, subscribe to the show, give us a good rating. All that little stuff goes a really long way. It really helps us a lot, and we really appreciate it. So until then, thank you again, and see you next time.